specialist and former Dalton McGuinty speechwriter Lloyd Ryan for his thoughts on the throne speech today. Lloyd, great to see you. Thanks for coming in. Now, you have written also for Mike Harris, for Ernie Eves. You've written the budget speeches for Charles Sousa. So you know what you're talking about when it comes to speeches. What stood out to you today?
Well, a couple of things. I mean, the one, it was a little light on specifics. It was long on rhetoric and kind of light on substance. So one of the lines that I think I heard was, there's no better use of a dollar than a dollar that's kept in your pocket, which sounds great. But I mean, I think the dollar that I spent on, the Ontario physician that did your child's surgery was a dollar really well spent. I don't know if the dollar that I spent on the Justin Bieber single that I bought on iTunes is a dollar really well spent. And frankly, the job of the government is to spend those dollars really wisely. And one of the things the speech said was, it talked about respect for physicians, respect for teachers, respect for nurses. Well, one of the ways you show that respect is through your priorities and your policies, and there wasn't a lot of substance in terms of how the government intends to show its respect to those people.
So nothing really changed then from the election campaign to the throne speech?
Yeah, I would have expected to see some more. I would have expected to see a bigger departure. I think the government's still sort of figuring itself out and figuring out the books and figuring out its next steps. So I think they bought themselves a little bit of time. But again, the speech was a lot of suds and not a lot of beer.
Andrew, nicely put, considering there was some talk about suds and wine in the convenience stores, which is that always one you kind of fall back on because everybody grabs on it and goes, ooh, beer and wine in corner stores?
Yeah, and there were some specifics. I mean, there were some very narrow specifics on the Memorial, Queen's Park, and the beer and wine and that sort of thing. But the big stuff, hospitals, education, like how are you what's the path forward? That was a little bit absent in my mind.
And there seems to be a lot of outrage about the sex ed curriculum on the other side, right? Even though it appears that this government was elected on that platform.
Well, and they delivered, and frankly, they did some things that they said they would do, and you have to expect that in the first throne speech. But some of the other things that jumped out at me, for example, were the language around diversity. It's a little interesting because one of the things that Prime Minister Trudeau always says is we're strong not in spite of our diversity, but because of it. And what this speech says is, actually, we're Ontarians first and we're Canadians first, and that diversity stuff doesn't matter so much. And I don't know how that's going to play with people in Ontario. And it's a major departure, so we'll see where that leads in the next months and years ahead. And frankly, coming from a guy whose Twitter handle is still Ford Nation, I don't know if that's bringing people together just yet.
Okay, well, listen, great to hear your perspective. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks so much, Ed.
Okay, and this is Live at 5 on Toronto.